If you love stories about people trying to figure out who they really are beneath the roles that they've been playing, or if you're drawn to books where the search for self leads to surprising relationships and unexpected bonds, or if you enjoy narratives that explore how found family can reshape a life just as powerfully as fame or ambition, if so, then today's book just might be for you. Today, I'll be reviewing Atmosphere, a Love Story by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Welcome to Spencer Reads Everything. I'm your host, Spencer Duncan, and on this channel, I review every book I read, from fiction to nonfiction, to poetry, to great courses, and everything in between. My goal is always the same: to help you figure out which books might be right for you by giving you clear summaries, thoughtful reactions, and honest recommendations. Today, I'm talking about Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I first heard about it as a great summer read from one of the podcasts that I listen to, though honestly, I can't remember which one, but that's not an uncommon thing that I've said on this channel lately. Either way, it stood out to me because it promised exactly what Reid does best: emotionally complicated characters, personal transformation, and the kind of layered storytelling that keeps you invested from start to finish. But before we can go on, let's take a look at Taylor Jenkins Reid. She has become one of the most recognizable names in contemporary fiction. She started her career writing intimate, emotionally grounded novels about relationships and self-discovery, but her reputation exploded when she shifted towards storytelling that blends Hollywood glamour with deeply human interior lives, with books like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Daisy Jones and the Six, and Malibu Rising, which showed how skillfully she can weave fame, identity, and personal reinvention into narratives that feel both polished and at the same time quite raw. Reid's work often centers on characters who are caught between who they are and who they used to be, and the version of themselves that the world expects. It's a recurring theme in her writing, and it's part of what makes her books resonate with so many readers. Atmosphere, a Love Story fits comfortably within that pattern, while still carving out its own emotional territory. Before we go on, this is your spoiler warning. I'm going to walk through the major plot points of Atmosphere, talk about the characters, and dig into the key emotional turns of the story. I do this because my goal is always to give you a clear, detailed understanding of what the book is doing, and that means getting into specifics. If you want to read the book without knowing anything ahead of time, this is your chance to pause the video and to come back later. With that being said, let's take a look at the main characters. The main character is Joan Goodwin. Joan is the heart of the novel, an astronomer turned astronaut whose lifelong fascination with the stars shapes every chapter of her life. She is brilliant, composed, introverted, and deeply committed to her work, but her defining trait is her capacity for loyalty and quiet love. Joan has spent decades orienting herself around science, responsibility, and the small circle of people she trusts. Her deep interiority gives the novel its emotional center, especially as she navigates ambition, grief, connection, and what it means to truly belong to others. Then you have Vanessa Ford. Vanessa is another mission specialist and one of the brightest forces in Joan's life. Confident, driven, and intensely self-contained, she is the kind of person who draws attention without trying. Vanessa loves engineering the same way Joan loves astronomy, and her desire to fly the shuttle is almost spiritual in its intensity. Reid frames her as both Joan's opposite and her equal, the person who challenges Joan, inspires her, and ultimately becomes a key part of Joan's found family. Their chemistry, intellectual and emotional, is foundational to the story. You have several other people of interest that are also going to be part of the crew. You have Lydia Danes, you have John Griffin, there's quite a few other people, but probably the most important other people that you need to know about are actually going to be Joan's family. Barbara is Joan's younger sister, and Frances is Joan's niece, and they are the emotional anchor of Joan's world. You discover that she cares deeply for both her sister and her niece, but you also discover that her sister is not very responsible, and that is one of the reasons why she has such a close relationship with her niece, and you will see how that plays out as the story unfolds. So those are some of the main characters that you need to know. Let's dig into a summary of the book itself. The novel opens in 1984 with Joan serving as Capcom for a shuttle mission involving several of her closest friends and crewmates. She's already flown once, she has her gold pin, and she is grounded, literally and emotionally, by her responsibilities on Earth. The opening chapters move through mission control with incredible precision, showing us the procedures, the teamwork, and the stakes of spaceflight, but they also show us the emotional history woven through this crew. When there is a mechanical failure, which forces Griff and Vanessa into an early spacewalk, the mission seems stressful but manageable, but then a catastrophic explosion occurs during satellite deployment, sending debris ripping into the shuttle. Within minutes, the cabin begins to depressurize. The scene unfolds with devastating clarity, crew losing consciousness, alarms sounding, mission control scrambling, and Joan is forced to keep her voice steady while everything inside her unravels. By the time the pressure stabilizes, Vanessa is still conscious in the airlock, desperately keeping Griff alive, but everyone else may already be gone. From there, the book jumps back 7 years to trace the winding path that brought Joan and all of these people together. We see Joan as a young astronomy professor living a quiet life in Houston, still helping to raise her niece Frances, still orbiting around a family that depends on her more than it admits, when her sister Barbara sees a NASA recruitment commercial encouraging women scientists to apply. Joan puts her name forward almost on a whim. She never expects anything to come of it until she gets the call. What follows is a richly detailed portrait of NASA in the early shuttle era. The intense physical testing, the interviews, the hierarchy between military pilots and civilian scientists, and the culture shock of being one of the few women in a historic male environment. Joan forms fast, meaningful friendships with people like Donna Fitzgerald and Griff, while her first sparks of connection with Vanessa appear almost against her will. Some quiet conversations, some shared meals, long nights in training rooms, where admiration slowly turns into trust, slowly at some point turns into a little more than trust. And as the narrative toggles between the past and the present, the author slowly reveals the emotional backstories of each character, their childhood dreams, their private griefs, their ambitions, and the ways they survive in an environment defined by competition, but dependent on collaboration. You discover more about Joan's found family, and this is where it grows, and not just through grand declarations, but through shared effort, some shared danger, and some shared joy. Meanwhile, Joan's home life offers a counterweight. Her niece Frances adores her, Barbara relies on her, and Joan feels constantly torn between the pull of the sky and the obligations of Earth. Her love for Frances is one of the novel's core emotional lines, shaping every difficult decision she makes as she rises through NASA. The story builds toward the disaster we witnessed early on, but now with full emotional context. And now we understand why Joan is the exact person who should be in Capcom that day, and also the last person who should have to endure it. We understand why Vanessa is fighting so hard in the airlock. We understand what is at stake for Joan, not only in terms of professional responsibility, but in terms of the people she loves, namely Vanessa. By the time the timeline catches back up to the present, Atmosphere becomes a novel about so much more than just what is going on in that moment, but everything that came before it too. There's a fair amount of understanding how grief and poor decisions and good decisions and happenstance and good luck and everything can change the meaning of the world around you, and that is what this book is about. And it is wonderful, and it is powerful, and it is fascinating, and it was something that I thoroughly enjoyed reading. And I will tell you, you know what, I will actually let you read the very last part of it to find out whether there is any success in the rescue mission that Vanessa is being forced to take on quite unexpectedly. I will let you read and find out what exactly happens. I must say, I really enjoyed this book. I went in expecting an interesting story about the space program, and I got that, but I also got a surprisingly deep character journey that pulled me in right away. The sections about the creation of the shuttle program are excellent, even though the characters aren't based on real people. The research is very strong, and it felt accurate, at least emotionally and in terms of new ideas, and especially about the procedures, the culture inside NASA, the hierarchy between the pilots, the scientists, and all that. I felt like it did an excellent job of portraying that, even though, like I said, they are not real characters. I felt that, you know, the accuracy and the authenticity of the world that she created really made up for the fact that these are not real individuals. I especially thought that Reid captured the intensity and excitement of this era in the space program, and she does it in a way that feels respectful to the real women who did fight their way into NASA. And of course, the part that stayed with me the most was Joan's personal journey, her self-discovery, her sense of responsibility, and her growing awareness of herself that felt very honest and beautifully paced. I especially loved the storyline with her niece. I thought that Joan's commitment to Frances, even when she's afraid it might derail her dreams of going into space, gives the book so much more emotional weight. It's a reminder that caregiving, sacrifice, and love can shape a life just as much as ambition can. I really enjoyed the book. It worked for me on every level. The science, the emotion, the family dynamics, and the slow building relationships that give the story its heart. So who is this for? Well, this book is for readers who enjoy character-driven fiction with a strong emotional core. If you like stories about people trying to understand themselves, or push their limits and find connection in unexpected places, then Atmosphere will be a great fit. Joan's journey towards self-awareness, her confidence, and openness is handled with real care, and readers who appreciate introspective main characters will connect with her. It's also for anyone interested in NASA, the history of the shuttle program, or the early challenges faced by women entering the astronaut corps. Again, these are not based on real characters, but I felt like the author's research was quite detailed and authentic, and it did give a very accurate representation. Also, if you love found family stories, this one has a lot to offer. The relationships among the crew, the trust that they build, and the emotional bonds that form under pressure, they give this novel much of its heart. And if you're drawn to that slow burn romance, especially between two capable, driven women learning to let themselves be known, then the love story between Joan and Vanessa will also be one of the highlights for you. And finally, for readers who appreciate stories that balance ambition with caregiving, will find Joan's relationship with her niece especially moving. The book handles responsibility, sacrifice, and the ways family can shape a life in subtle and meaningful ways. So who is this not for? Well, this book is not for readers who prefer fast-paced, plot-heavy fiction with constant twists. Yes, it does start out with a very exciting moment, but aside from that, Atmosphere takes its time. It builds slowly, focusing on character development, emotional growth, and the daily grind of training and mission work. And so if you need a story that moves quickly from one event to the next, this one may not feel quite what you're looking for. It also is not for readers who want a purely historical, accurate account of the shuttle program. It is a novel. Even though the research is excellent, the characters are fictional, and the book leans into emotional realism more than strict historical retelling. If you only want stories about real astronauts or actual missions, this really won't hit the mark. Also, readers who dislike introspective narratives may struggle here as well. Joan spends a lot of time reflecting and learning and reassessing her life. The book also asks you to sit with her internal questions and her slower, more thoughtful moments. And finally, this is not for readers who are interested in found family dynamics or in romance woven gently through the story. The relationship between Joan and Vanessa grows gradually and quietly, and the emotional weight of Joan's bond with her niece is central to the book. If those threads don't appeal to you, this may not be the right book for you. Atmosphere worked for me on many different levels. It blends meticulous research with emotional depth, and it delivers a story that feels both intimate and expansive. The accuracy of the shuttle era details gives the book a strong sense of place, but it's really the characters, their ambition, their fears, their connections that make the story memorable. Joan's journey is compelling from start to finish, whether she's navigating NASA, discovering new parts of herself, or fighting for the well-being of her niece. What really stayed with me is how well the book balances the wonder of space exploration with the quieter responsibilities of everyday life. The author shows that courage isn't only found in the vacuum of space. Sometimes it's found in choosing family, in choosing love, and choosing to keep growing even when it feels risky. The relationships in this book, especially the bond between Joan and Vanessa, and the fierce love that Joan has for Francis, give it a depth that lingers long after the final chapter. I thoroughly enjoyed this novel. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I would certainly love to hear your thoughts on this book in particular, or anything else by the author. I have not read anything else by her, so I can't say for sure where this stacks up. But if you have, please let me know in the comments. And while you're here, please check out more of my other videos. I have so many videos. I have reviewed so many things because I like so many different things. Please find something else that you're interested in, give it a view, and of course, let me know what you're thinking. And if you enjoy my videos, please share them. The more people that know about my videos, the more I can make. And don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications. And until next time, keep those pages turning.